I'm told you live on a narrowboat in England. What inspired you to live on a narrowboat?
Well, since I was aged about 20, I had trips out on narrowboats on the canals of England. And as time went on, I got more and more interested. And eventually, I bought my own narrowboat.
How long have you been living on your narrowboat?
I've been living on it for 18 months now.
And what has your experience been like so far? Are you enjoying it, or do you regret anything?
It's been very enjoyable. I've seen many different parts of England, seen many towns and villages, so it has been a very good experience.
And what age of people live on a narrowboat generally?
Well, there are all kinds of people that choose to live on a narrowboat, from young single people to couples and to older people who are in their 60s and 70s.
Can you share any tips for someone considering living on a narrowboat?
Well, you have to be aware that you are living in a very small space. A narrowboat is generally 17 metres long and 2 metres wide. So you have to be used to living in a small space with minimal possessions.
And did you find that a problem?
I didn't personally find that a problem. I did have to sell some things that I couldn't take onto my narrowboat, but I've got all the things that I need.
And what are the other challenges of living on a narrowboat?
Because you live on a narrowboat, then you are using water all the time, and water has to be put onto the narrowboat, and there are special water points around the canal and river network where you can put water into your boat to use for drinking and washing and cleaning. And you also have to make sure that you have a good internet connection if you want to use the internet on your boat.
And what about shopping, food shopping? How do you manage that on a boat?
Well, on a boat, you are generally going from place to place, doing a 3-hour cruise and moving about 3 or 4 miles. So you're always very close to a shop. Sometimes you're close to big supermarkets. So generally, it's not a problem.
Do you think it's cheaper to live on a narrowboat than in a house?
The initial costs of buying a boat are cheaper than a house, but in general, running costs, day-to-day costs are very similar because you have to live. It's a difficult decision. It's a different way of life, and possibly it's a little cheaper. But again, you have to use energy. You buy oil and diesel and gas to live your life.
What are some of the most scenic routes or canals you've travelled along in England?
Well, most of the time you are travelling through open countryside where there are green fields with animals and forests and woods, and then you end up in a town or a city, and it is completely different. So you do get a real mix of countryside and urban settlements, which makes it very interesting.
Are there any hidden gems or lesser-known spots along the canals that you recommend exploring?
My main memory is going into Liverpool because the centre of Liverpool has got a big dock area, and I took the boat into Liverpool docks, and to be so close to a city centre was incredible. And there are lots of hidden gems, small places, small villages where you can moor your boat and enjoy the place that you are in.
How do you stay connected to the outside world while you're living on a narrowboat?
Well, I've got a mobile phone, so as anywhere, then you can contact people. And in most places, there is really good internet. So you can WhatsApp people, you can do Skype calls, so no problem at all.
What have you enjoyed most about the lifestyle living on a narrowboat so far?
It's being able to move from one place to another and see different places. The way we travel, we can stay up to 14 days in one particular place and then move on. You might decide to only stay one night in one place or 2 nights. So it is being able to see different parts of England at different times of the year.
Does the weather affect what you do or where you can go on the narrowboat?
The weather in England is always mixed and very unpredictable. So there are sunny days, cloudy days, and a lot of rainy days. But you can travel in the rain, in the sun, if you need to move on or you wish to move on. So it's a matter of being flexible and thinking about what the weather might be later on in the day, and then you choose to move in the morning, or if it's raining in the morning, you can move in the afternoon.
What's the worst type of weather for travelling?
The worst type of weather when you're on a narrowboat is when it is very windy. Because the boat is so long, the wind can blow into the side of the boat, and it's difficult to keep the boat on a straight course. So wind is the biggest problem.
Have you encountered any interesting wildlife or natural phenomena while living on the waterways?
I'm always on the lookout for wildlife, and the most common things you see are farm animals, cows, sheep, sometimes goats, and there are always ducks that are swimming alongside, and swans and Canada geese are very common.
Do you have a daily routine that you stick to while you're living on your boat?
Yes, I try to keep to a routine. I get up and have breakfast, and then I have to prepare the fire during the winter and spring months, and sort out my coal and wood to make sure that I've got a sufficient supply for later on in the day. I always check on the water supply and make sure that everything is okay on the boat before I start work.
Have you met any interesting people while you've been living on your boat?
I've met some YouTubers. They produce vlogs every week, and I watch those whenever I can. And I've met some of them while I've been travelling about on my boat. And it's very nice to meet them. They're pleased to see you. And for me, it's almost like meeting someone who's a TV star, because I've seen so much of them.
Do you have any safety concerns while you're living on the boat and while you're mooring in the countryside, for example, or even in big cities?
Safety is always a concern because you're travelling on water, so you have to be very careful you don't slip into the canal or to the river. And on the canal network there are locks which take the boat up and down, and these can be dangerous places if they're not treated with respect. Going into towns and cities, there are some places you might not choose to moor at if you think there might be a problem, but in general, most places on the canal and river network are safe places to moor.
Have you ever felt unsafe in a particular area?
I've only ever felt unsafe in one particular place when I was going along on my narrowboat, and there were some children at the side of the canal, and they were throwing stones and rocks at me and the boat. But it was only for a short time, and I moved on, and there's not been another incident like that for a long time.
What advice would you give to someone planning a narrowboat journey as a holiday?
A lot of people do choose to hire a narrowboat and go on a holiday, either for a long weekend or for 4 days, for 7 days, or for 14 nights. And I would recommend it. It gives people a taster of what life is like on the canal, and yeah, it's a good thing to do if people want a different type of holiday out in the open air, in the countryside, in the cities, and seeing life from a different perspective.
And what about if someone was considering living on a narrowboat full time? What would you say to them?
I would advise them to hire a boat first so they can see what limited space there is on the boat. Kitchen is smaller, the bathroom is smaller, the living area is smaller, and so is the bedroom.
And finally, how has living on a narrowboat influenced your perspective on life and the environment around you?
It hasn't changed my perspective. It's just that I can enjoy things a lot more. I've got more free time. I'm travelling into different places and to different villages, towns, and different parts of England. So it gives you a greater perspective of what life is like in England, rather than just being in the one place, in the same house, and possibly doing the same things every day.
Thank you.